Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Answer the Call. And this episode, I think it was a necessity. It happened. It had to happen. Um, this topic has seeped into too many of our other topics where we were talking about completely different things, and obviously the travel times affect a lot of the moving parts in StarCitizen. So said, that's it. We have to talk about this, like the end-all be-all of the travel time discussion in StarCitizen. It really seeped into last week if you guys watched last week's episode. So I just said, you know what, we have to talk about it today. If you guys are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button for more episodes like this. We do these episodes every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You guys can join live by joining our Discord channels, our little Discord queue, I guess. But yeah, I actually have the next few episodes kind of ready in advance, so you guys can maybe get your thought process going there. Next week's episode is, it's up in the air. It's either going to be a conversation with Board Gamer again, just like the original episodes of Answer the Call, or so that will have less of a topic and just kind of, talk about where the show's come from, where it's going. And I think just about the overall state of StarCitizen, where it is right now, will actually be the topic if he comes on. And then the following week's topic is going to be about the community content and the direction it's gone, and kind of the way they start the year every year is what I have issues with. So, yeah, make sure you guys are mentally prepared for those in the future. All right. But again, on the topic of travel times, I did some research, and I think the biggest thing that I noticed is I researched Earth. How is the biggest? Okay, let's start out with the biggest issue that I have with currently in StarCitizen is not quantum travel times. It is the amount of time that you travel in atmosphere. Now, with some caveats, I recognize the smaller ship that you have, the faster you move, the more your ship looks like a ship that should fly in atmosphere, the better it accelerates in atmosphere right now. Prior to this episode, we rewatched the flight model panel and some of the RTV panel on the flight model. That may have some effect to this, but I'm not entirely sure based on what I've seen so far. It might make it worse. It might make it better. It might make it better for some ships, worse for other ships, or it might have overall changes. And I will link to that video in the description, and I think you should be able to click it like right up there as well. But I did some research on Earth because StarCitizen is kind of based off of this like 1/8 scale of a star system or whatever. All the star systems are like that. So it's a little different. So Earth's atmosphere is a 480 kilometers thick in comparison to Hurston's 100 kilometers thick. Makes some sense, right? Earth's atmosphere is much, much thicker than Hurston's atmosphere. Whatever it is, 1/8, 1/6, doesn't matter. Okay, I saw that in Twitch chat. But there's obviously a fraction of the size to make it more like manageable or whatever, right? So here's the difference between Earth and Hurston. Any significant atmosphere, which is called the mesosphere, ends at 50 kilometers on Earth. After that, it's kind of like planes can't fly there, weather balloons can't fly there, and it's more like space than it is like Earth's atmosphere, right? So there's an inherent flaw already. And the inherent flaw is not in the fact that in the upper parts of Hurston's atmosphere, we can fly very quickly, right? That's not where I have issues. It's the way we travel mainly in ships in StarCitizen is in quantum travel, whether we're traveling around a planet or around a star system. A majority of the travel is done with quantum travel, correct? Yes. I'll answer my own question, I guess. So The issue is that you cannot quantum travel in atmosphere. So I think what needs to happen as far as in-atmosphere travel goes is we need to shorten the relevant atmosphere. You can have 100 kilometers thick atmosphere of Hurston. That makes sense. It makes logical sense on how atmospheres work, at least on Earth. Okay? But the density of the atmosphere is what needs to affect your quantum drive. And Luke Presley actually has listened to a few of my rants about this on my Twitch stream and kind of made some suggestions about it. And he said, so on that topic, the new flight model systemically calculates the temperature for air friction, meaning the reentry effects are correct. So I've got the quantum travel guys on board with using that to determine when you are able to quantum from atmosphere. So the idea is to pretend this is a all up in the air thing. We're just kind of talking ideas, and the idea might be to allow, excuse me, cat, to allow quantum travel from atmosphere to some extent, right? So determining when the atmosphere is thin enough to allow for quantum travel is going to really, really matter. And that was something I was ready to mention on today's podcast, and then Luke just comes out and says basically the exact same thing that I wanted to as the solution for it. Now, that's one of the issues with travel. Obviously, I have shared my issues with quantum travel. I think they are a little bit excessive, but I think that solution, there's an easy solution for that, and that is with the component system, adding more quantum drives to the component list, faster ones that have less durability, all that stuff. I think there's a lot of systems that are not online yet that could potentially solve the quantum travel issue for me personally, with positives and negatives. You go a little faster, but there's negatives. You go a little slower, but there's less negatives on these things. I think that's really fine. And I'm seeing something in Twitch chat, and I usually don't respond to it because this is a podcast, but I think this is a really a relevant thing to say. His name is Elic _ and he says, I don't like this idea. Sorry, they should find ways to make the traveling interesting. Well, that's the thing, is in that thick part of the atmosphere is where the interesting travel is. And it's for a shorter amount of time, but getting yourself out of that atmosphere should be exciting. It should be a challenge. It should be fun. And we've heard, I believe it was ASN or Cayman, one of our VIP callers, talk about taking off and how it should be this incredible experience. But I don't think that experience should take 20 minutes, right? It should be a challenge for that couple minute portion of time where you're on the edge of falling to the planet again if you make a mistake, right? So I agree with you completely, but not for this 100 kilometers time, right? Where as soon as I'm out of 100 kilometers, yes, I'm out of the grip of Hurston or whatever planet's gravity, but I can rip out of that gravity with quantum drive at a much faster distance, without any detriments to my ship. If I just turn everything off, should I fall back to the planet at some rate? Yes. But, should my engines be able to pull me out of quantum drive pull me out of the full atmosphere without doing any damage to my ship? Yeah, that's how I feel, right? Now, the other major issue that I have is just kind of the layout of Lorville, and the amount of time it takes to do anything. The other day we did a mission where I was doing a bunker mission, and then I had Clovis mission pop up, or it was a Konstantin Herschen mission, actually. And I was like, oh, well, let me take this. I haven't done this yet. So it took me 40 minutes in a Freelancer, which is it is a bulky ship, but it is not an extensively large, slow-moving ship. It's pretty reasonable on the accelerator scale, I would say. And Yeah. It took me 40 minutes just to get to Constantine Hurston. So the amount of time that StarCitizen gives you currently between actual gameplay is a problem. And it's a major problem for me because I want to, like, let's say when I take a mission, I don't want to do it instantaneously. I get you're going to have to travel to it and speak to people and all sorts of things, especially when it comes to mission givers like Constantine Hurston, because you have to go and see them. Now, I think this was a suggestion made when I was talking to somebody else on a Discord call, was, I can see going to Constantine Hurston 2, 3, 4 times, but then he builds a rapport with you where we have the same Moby-Glass numbers, and they can call you, and you get missions when you're out and about, and you can do his missions from there without having to go see him every time, right? So there you go. That's a solution to solve a little bit of that problem. And if you want to go and talk to him because you want that experience, you can. But for someone who wants to be in the game, making money, having fun, all that stuff, is a problem with the way it is now, because the amount of time traveling to gameplay and the amount of is this big, and the amount of time of the actual gameplay is this big. So, kind of bringing that more in line together really needs to happen. Also, like I was saying, the layout of Lorville is really kind of weird. I have to travel through a hallway and walk upstairs and walk downstairs and travel through another hallway to get to a train, to get to another hallway, to travel to another train, to get to another hallway to talk to Constantine Hurston. It's just like, what? I think that is solved by just the game developing in terms of subsumption AI and the landing zones a little bit in general. I think, first off, I've heard that just through Twitch and stuff like that, that the trains, they want more on a loop. So the way the current trains are, one train goes from one stop and back. That's it. If the trains are looping, it's going to be a lot faster, right? Where trains are constantly going, you're not going to be waiting as long, so on and so forth. So that solution's kind of already being worked out, I believe, as far as the trains go. But I think part of the problem with the landing zones, and you'll see it, who a player is on Hurston because they're running. Because everybody's in a rush because they only have so much time to play. So that's the big thing here, is I think a majority of the community is a bit older and they may not have that much time to play. So who a player is in Hurston because they're running everywhere. Because the amount of time it would take to walk is insane around Hurston. So everybody's running. And if they're running, that tells you that the distance we have to travel to get to anything in Hurston is a problem. One of the major examples is if you're running cargo. I know there isn't really any major cargo runs to Hurston right now. I imagine there will be in the future, right? Maybe Hurston needs metal or plasma to make their weapons, things like that, and you're going to want to be selling it there. Well, when I land at the Hurston Starport, I have to walk through a hallway, walk down some stairs, walk through another hallway to get to a train, to get to another hallway, to go through a door, to get to a panel, to buy and sell cargo. That all should be just done at the spaceport, right? So more logical things need to come in place to kind of just speed the stuff up a little bit, right? So I just feel like there is way too much downtime in StarCitizen, and I think there's some logical solutions to that. And I think I've talked long enough. We have a lot of callers. I'm going to do my best to keep the call short, to the point, on how we feel about the whole StarCitizen travel time thing. And yeah, all right. So I'm just going to get some callers on. I really want to hear your opinions. If you guys are not calling in, you're not here live, and you're talking in the YouTube or watching the YouTube video, please mention some things in the comments. Tell me what you think, because this is an amazingly polarizing topic. I think it's the most polarizing topic that I think we've probably ever had on this show, because I see people all the time that love the amount of time it takes to travel, and I see a lot of people that hate the amount of time it takes to travel. I think part of the issue is, for those of you that love the travel time, I think part of the problem is that there's no gameplay in StarCitizen yet. There's no need to progress in StarCitizen yet, because we all know there's going to be a wipe. So even if you're progressing towards a ship right now in 3.4, we aren't actually playing the game. And I think when the game really comes online, I think a lot of those people that love the travel times are really going to wish they were shorter so they can start achieving things on their gameplay sessions. And I think that's why it's so polarizing. So I want, if you do love the travel times and how much time it takes, I think you're just enjoying the StarCitizen experience of what it is right now. But the StarCitizen experience, 6 months, a year, 2, 3, 4 years from now is going to be a lot different, where you're going to be trying to actually achieve things during your gameplay session instead of going, wow, that's pretty, or, ooh, let's travel over there and look at that. So that's my opinion on your opinion, but I actually want to hear what you think about that, okay? So let's bring on our first caller, who is Tiz. I actually regularly talk to Tiz on Discord on my way to work sometimes, so I'm really interested to see what he has to say. Hey, Tiz, what's up? You're on Answer the Call. Oh, no. Hold on. Hello, Tiz. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Sorry. You are on Answer the Call. So what are your thoughts on the travel times, man?
I have maybe 2 points about it.
Okay.
I don't have a big opinion about it because I feel like it's hard to judge at the moment if it's too long or too short, because not everything is in it. My first point would be that everybody's saying that I'm going to play 3D chess on the way to Daymar, or I'm going to play Arena Commander.
That's bullshit.
It's going to happen. Yeah. So you'll just sit in your pilot seat while you quantum travel, or do something else, or watch a YouTube video or anything like that.
Yeah, or you'll get up and go, make some food, your Tostino's pizza wraps or some shit like that. And I wanted to mention this in my monologue too, is anyone that says that during those travel times you'll be doing these downtime things, maybe they will, Tiz. I don't know. Okay? But
it's
like
still a
the
game.
people that are using that as a solution, that's the most bullshit solution there can possibly be. Because I'm traveling to a place because I want to do a certain task, not because I want to fucking play chess with my, org mates in my ship, or not because I don't want to play Arena Commander in my ship because I wanted to go do the mission that I want to go do, or I wanted to go cargo haul or whatever, right?
I agree. I think CIG just shot themselves in the foot a bit, because they said, "Oh, we're going to go full immersion and we can land on the planets and you can go all the way down without any landing sequence." So it's hard to make the travel time shorter now. And I feel like all those 3D chess, Arena Commander, whatever, repairing your ship, that's just excuses now.
They're excuses that people are using that for whatever reason they like the flight mod or the travel times, and I think they're just making excuses for it, and I don't think it's a valid point, and I don't think it's logical at all.
So I think at the end you're just going to do the thing that gets you more or UEC than to buy the next ship.
Exactly.
And the second thing is I've been playing Atlas with Sawyer and BB, and that was kind of my first experience of a MMO start, right? With also land claims.
Yeah.
And the only thing where I feel like travel times could be an advantage is for the new player, that they might not get rushed by anybody so fast, because it's harder to get somewhere. And that's also in Atlas, you have to sail from island to island. I mean, the game is shit, obviously, but you still have to. No, I mean, you still have to sail from island to island, and you can't just rush them and jump over there and claim the land and then be gone again. And on the other hand, it also could be bad for new players, because if you can't really make much If you can't really do much or make much money, then only like big orgs, and especially like guys like Utwork that lead the big orgs are going to be the wealthy people in StarCitizen, and everybody else just is crunching some.
How about people that just
job
have faster ships and faster quantum drives and everything at the start, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's pay to win. Yeah.
Yep. To some extent, it
think
may be.
that
We'll
was cool.
see. We'll see what it's like at the release. But as of right now, it has pay to win feelings, right?
Yeah. And the other thing is, like maybe my last point, because your monologue was pretty long.
Yeah.
Is that maybe planets should be hard to access, right? And you should really think about going down to a planet or leaving a planet. Is it really worth jumping across the system? So maybe that's depending on how the gameplay develops. Also, you talked about maybe only calling Constantine on his cell phone instead of every time going down there.
Yeah, I mean, that's just for the mission givers, obviously, right? Because the other missions are all done through your mobiGlas currently anyway. So building a relationship with a mission giver where they call you, it really solves a lot of that. But I think building the reputation with him is also important, because part of StarCitizen is going down to the planet, is going and speaking to that guy and seeing that beautiful cinematic, right? That's what we're about in the game. It's just the amount of time it takes them. It's just not worth it for a 5,000 credit mission or whatever they're gonna. Even if they offer a really nice one, it really just isn't worth it in comparison to, other things.
And
specifically just traveling from
time as well.
From like station to station instead of moon to moon, planet to planet. Say it again, Tiz?
But if you only called down to Constantine after the first time you visit, it would be such a waste of time now on CIG side to pump all this effort into planets, right?
That's why I think you have to build the reputation up with them.
Yeah, that's gonna suck. So.
Yeah, but the thing is you're not just going down there to speak to them, right? A hero mission giver or whatever is one thing. Now, that's why I mentioned, I think the solution as for walking around places like Hurston and Lorville are Subsumption AI coming online. Because it doesn't feel alive right now. You're not walking through a crowd of people. You're not walking down, what's down that hallway? There's a lot less reason to explore because there's nothing there to do in most of the hallways and places that we're traveling through. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So I think the solution to that one is simply just time and Tony Z,
Yeah. But on the other hand, I just feel that people need to, like the guys that are fine with the travel times now, they might change their mind later, or they will or they will keep being fine. But I think the chances that the travel times change significantly, because all the things that we talk about that could speed up travel times, like faster quantum travel, that's only going to be marginally faster, because the walking around, getting in your ship, launching and everything, that's the major part of
that's the time sink, right
now.
Leaving atmosphere, all that.
Yeah, don't really think that's going to change much. So I hope there's going to be some gameplay that alleviates that, or that we don't have to go down to planets so much. But I'm a bit salty and pessimistic about the subject, as always.
All right, Tiz. Tiz, our resident salt shaker. All right, Tiz.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on Answer the Call. We'll see you next time, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye now. All right, and our next caller is Belatar. Belatar, you are on Answer the Call. We'll just change the name here. I think this will work. Yeah, there we go. Belatar, you are on Answer the Call. Welcome, buddy.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, so what I have to say about the topic might be a bit boring and off-putting, because I'm the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is the amount of rage and emotion that already goes into this topic. because I think to talk about it and to think about it is absolutely fair, because it's going to be an important topic, an aspect of the game.
And now is the time to discuss it, because we're at the earliest stages of planets and moons and quantum drives and all that stuff. So this is where you think about this specific topic, right?
Yeah, it's time to discuss it, but it's absolutely useless to rage about it. Because we're talking about something that is going to be relevant 3 years from now. So that's actually my point. So it's absolutely the earlier you discuss it and try it out and test it is of course valuable. So you can address it earlier. But I think it's absolutely pointless to create any kind of drama about it. Just because there are so many things not yet in game that will affect this, because we just learned the new flight model will affect this in one way or another, because it changes travel in atmosphere, out of atmosphere. Professions will affect this. In general, the density of content available will affect this, because currently only one profession is half implemented. You have certain types of missions that are in game, but it is not nearly as much as not nearly as much content as will be in the final product. So maybe just by the additional content that comes into the game, your destinations will be much more densely populated, and you won't have the need to travel across the system to do a certain kind of mission, just because there may be the same type of content available much closer to you, which will have an effect on travel time, or may have. That's just speculation, but that's, I think, an aspect that will have an impact on travel time.
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, it's also so to now create, on the one side, to now rage about travel times is for me too early. It doesn't make sense to already get emotional about this. We're not talking about a released game where we're paying money to have gameplay. This is kind of this treating it like a game instead of a development project trap, a little, where I feel that because of the huge leaps the development has made with the planet coming in at OCS especially, and having better frame rates, it feels like a game already from the engine.
And I think that's why people are getting emotional. But at the same, like, I've gotten emotional. So as someone who's gotten emotional about this, just in general, I'm an emotional person, right? So I wear my heart on my sleeve or whatever. So you know when I'm upset about something, and you know when I'm not. And when, like you said, it does feel like a game. So there are elements to the game that I feel can easily be changed that can make the current state of the game more enjoyable. And that's why I get upset.
Can they easily be changed?
Can they be easily changed? It sounds like they can be. Because there are, like what Luke said, speeding up quantum travel times, right? Using the Moby Glass to contact the mission giver. Those are all fairly simple things to change from what I can tell.
Well, right? It's what? Yeah, this is an outside. It sounds, looking onto this from the outside, it sounds like it should be something easy, just like it should be absolutely a no-brainer and easy to fix Moby Glass opening twice or not at all. But I also do trust CIG and their competency in developing a game, that they are having reasons for not putting any priority towards it. So it looks easy from the outside, but as this project is hugely complex, this may be just be the little bit of effort put towards something that is only in the short term relevant.
Yeah.
To balance an unfinished system, and may
is a waste
over
of
the
time.
edge.
Yeah.
So that's what I don't know, and that's what I also am careful about. Where I, at the end, would for myself judge it the ways that I say. So this is my opinion. It looks easy, but on the other side, I trust CIG more to do the correct decision in long-term development because they know better than I do. I have developed that confidence in them to do so. So I would say, and it's actually kind of another trap that you might set. It goes a little bit in the direction of making this too gamey and too comfortable too early. This might be a hugely unpopular opinion, but I'm actually I'm of the opinion that even, for instance, if you could put real persistence into the live PU, so that they would rarely, if ever, need to do any resets anymore. I think CIG should be very careful in doing so, because if there's anything that will negatively impact your image and the gaming experience, is taking something away from players that they have already had. So now imagine you put in a full persistence, and the game is still 3 years away, and you are accumulating credits, you're buying ships, you are having equipment, and you do that over a very long time. And then suddenly release comes around, and all that you've built up over the years and grown accustomed to is taken away, and you have to start fresh, which would be, I think, a terrible experience for everyone involved in testing, and you would somehow feel punished.
I mean, I guess I respect your opinion, but I don't think I can disagree with an opinion any more than that. Everybody knows that they're playing an alpha, and at some point when the game is released, it obviously, things have to be reset, and we all start where we start. Like,
yeah, but everybody also knows that travel times are not final, and everybody's already raging and becoming emotional about it. So that's
okay, but there's a complete difference between those two things. Like the gameplay elements that they're putting in the game versus the fact that the game is going to get wiped or not are two totally different things. So as somebody who,
it's a similar concept.
No, it's not at all, because everybody knows that when the game is released, we all start where we start. When you've bought your game package, it says you start the game with this. Well, the game isn't the game until the game is released, right? But the elements that you're putting into the game that can be tweaked, that you can share your opinion on, are what people get emotional about and what topics we have on this show. And that's why I think they're completely different things, and why I can't agree with you, is that there's no opinion to be had of whether or not the game starts at a certain point and we start where we start. It's just fact. But I can have an opinion on the travel times. I can have an opinion on a certain weapon in the game. I can have an opinion about certain armor, and I'll get emotional, or the community will, and share their opinions on those things. That's why I can't agree with you, or I'm misunderstanding you, is that I think they're two totally different things.
I think you're not quite picking up the meaning of what I'm aiming at, but I think it's not actually directly relevant to the topic. I was just digressing into something. I think it's a similar concept of getting emotionally involved or aggravated about something that might be some kind of danger. So let's just loop back to the actual topic.
Okay.
So my core point is, it's good discussing this topic. It's good giving feedback, so you can do the early development. I think it is dangerous to whip up emotions and drama, especially if streamers and content creators multiply it, because this might actually lead to
which they
CIG
do,
feeling the need to respond to it, which,
like, look, I got emotional and Luke responded. That might not necessarily be a good thing, because I got emotional. It was my opinion.
So it's not even a personal criticism. It's just my general thought.
I know, but I happen to be one, you know?
This might lead to CIG responding, which we actually don't want currently, or we don't even know whether we want that, because the focus is on getting out Squadron 42, for which travel times will be a non-issue. It will absolutely have zero effect, except for maybe they're using it for creating, for storytelling, for creating drama, and having Okay, I don't know. You have
Yeah.
to respond to an emergency. It takes forever to get there, but that's highly hypothetical.
Yeah.
So I think the discussion is healthy. It's good to give that feedback so they can work on it.
Yes.
But I am totally relaxed in regards to, okay, now I don't go to Hurston because what you described is actually true. You run around forever.
Yep.
So I more stay around Crusader and do my stuff there because it's more fun.
Yep.
But I trust in them picking up the feedback and turning this into actual good gameplay down the road when more systems are in, this density of content has settled more, and you actually balancing should start when all the systems are in the game. Until then, I would say in the PU, look for stability and a little bit of performance, address outliers like one-shot builds and stuff, but don't go too deep into balancing because it's a waste of time. That's basically my position.
Okay. And that's fair. I think, yeah, we kind of came around, and now I kind of understand what you're saying. So thank you, Belatar, and yeah, so we're kind of feel the same way, and you just avoid Hurston for right now because it's boring.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
I'm just
basically what it is. So much
pragmatic about
downtime.
it.
Yeah, but not getting as emotional as maybe someone like I do, and yeah, because I do, I get emotional about these things. But all right, Belatar, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much for calling, and as always, a very good call.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Always, thank you. All right, and our next caller is Emessar. Emessar, you are on Answer the Call. How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing?
Good, and you? Well, I already asked you. So what do you think about the travel times?
Well, I do kind of like what you said about atmospheric flight. It doesn't really bother me as far as traveling down, but I can see maybe shortening that a little bit. I think that the new flight model will help with descending, at least for atmospheric capable ships. I think that being able to use that brake at the end to slow yourself down will
the
help
retro
with that.
thrusters, right?
Yeah, one addition I would have to your idea of being able to, or them talking about quantuming from atmosphere would be maybe if you quantum in atmosphere, there's a little bit of a cost. That's kind of a common trope in sci-fi. So maybe it causes additional wear or possibly could damage your ship. Quantuming in atmosphere and deeper atmosphere. I think maybe making it totally based on atmosphere might not be a good idea because you have some things that have very thin atmospheres and you might wind up hitting the ground.
Yeah.
So I think there would have to be also some sort of metric for it needs to be so far away from the surface of wherever you're quantum.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's in the game now, right? Is when you quote unquote leave atmosphere is not really when you leave atmosphere. It seems to be more when you leave the gravitational pull of the object that you're on, or you're leaving from.
Well,
right?
It's when you're leaving that physical zone, which is also the atmosphere.
Yeah, but it's also like you're no longer being pulled down to the planet either, or the moon, or whatever it is.
Right.
So it's like this weird line that it means a whole bunch of things. We call it leaving atmosphere, but it means a lot of things in the game currently, and maybe that changes. But what I kind of suggest is, because you're quote unquote in atmosphere when you're in high atmosphere in Earth, but the amount of what is it? The density of it, the pounds per square inch, or whatever, however you measure atmosphere. I forgot. Is
barometric pressure, I think.
Yeah, whatever. It is much higher. Like once you reach like 15 miles above Earth's surface, it's cut in half automatically. Like the amount of most of the atmosphere on Earth is very close to the surface. So, when you're comparing Earth to Hurston, for example, we have to go all the way out to 100 kilometers before we can do anything. So
Right.
like that's the change that I want to see, and I don't know if we should have the negatives as much as you're saying, is because we're not really in atmosphere. If you like, I think how it is now, where you're in atmosphere, should your ship get damaged? Yeah, probably. Or should your ship allow you? Probably not. Right? But once you cross that line of, all right, well, atmosphere is thin enough where I can travel, and gravity isn't pulling me as hard, maybe it's not as much of an issue, and you could just quantum freely, and then it would be normal wear and tear, is kind of how I would like to see it. But continue.
Yeah. I also I agree with a lot of what you're saying for as far as admins in spaceports and cities.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those need to be in the spaceport, and that, to me, that's not even part of it's about the travel time, I guess, but a lot of it is just
Logic.
it's logic. Yeah, it's that verisimilitude that they're trying to create with the whole game, that idea of realism. If you're transporting goods and you take a semi to a warehouse, they have an office usually set up right there at the entrance for where those semi trucks are going to pull in.
Yeah, you sign your paperwork and all that,
Right,
and
right.
move on.
They don't put it, oh, well, you need to walk down to the elevator and get to the 75th floor and all that. And places like Grimhex, and most of these locations have places that would be ideal for that.
Yeah.
In Grimhex, when you first walk in, and this was kind of one of my deals when they first started doing cargo, and you had to go to the admin for all this.
Yeah.
They have an area that was, I think, originally like a ticket vendor type thing or whatever, and there's another area on one of the back hallways that has kind of used to be able to glitch into it and get back into there, but it has almost like an office set up where you could put something back there.
Yeah.
And instead, and I understand kind of why they're doing it, I think, is just to, get you to explore the station to get to that point.
But that's what subsumption, that's why I mentioned subsumption, because that's what subsumption and just time brings to these landing zones, is they will implement things to make us want to travel around and experience random missions that come up out of nowhere. Like maybe more of like the Skyrim experience, like as you walk around, you come across somebody and they give you a mission type of thing.
Sure.
Right? Like that's just not in yet, and that's just not there, and it will be eventually. It just isn't, So that's one of those things where, okay, well, it's just going to take time, but a solution to in the near term is, with the mission givers, is just let them call me on my Moby Glass.
Yeah.
You have render detector.
My feeling on the mission givers would be that the first time that you go to start missions with them, that first time, and maybe on certain bespoke important missions, you should have to go and visit them.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
But for just like, oh, he's going to give me another bounty hunter mission that's pretty much the same as every other bounty hunter mission that I do.
Yeah.
I think having that first contact be in person gives you that experience, and it creates that same experience, when they're contacting you later, but remotely.
Yeah.
So it would be more like the demo that we first saw. Who was
with Miles Eckhart?
Miles Eckhart, yeah, where he calls you on the Moby Glass and says some stuff, and it would be something like that, but you wouldn't even need that. You could even just use voice, as far as I'm concerned, and it would have that same sort of, you would be recalling mentally, your first experience with meeting him, and it wouldn't cost all the resources and time and stuff to be able to get to them, and it would make more sense, again, just logically, that you would do things remotely.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see variation in travel times, like as far as just quantuming between planets, and I kind of made this in in a post on your last one.
Okay.
Right now, the Stanton system is maximally spread. Hurston and Crusader are in opposition almost completely on the other sides of the star Stanton.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Hurston L3 Lagrange point, then that's on the same orbital path as Hurston. So when they're closest, Hurston is going to be, in a Mustang, is going to be 2 minutes and 45 seconds from Crusader.
While L3 will
which-
be where Hurston was.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
whole
Or where it
Hurston
is
3
currently.
L3 is going to be way out in the boondocks someplace. So I think that once we get the planets moving and we can kind of choose where we are going to be in the system and where we're going to be making our trade runs or doing missions, I think those times are just going to naturally be coming down a lot. Just by virtue of that sort of evolving landscape.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
So, something
And
I'm
I thi-
really interested in now is like cargo hauling and mining and things like that. And the whole
Mhm.
problem with it is, well, okay, if this run might not make sense doing because you have to travel so far. So it's not everything that I think about when I'm doing these things is like my hourly wage, basically, is how much I can
Right.
earn every hour. So I'd like to make at least 20,000, 40,000 an hour, something like that. And if I can't do that, I don't want to do that run. So, at a certain time of the year, well, a run might make a lot more sense because Crusader is closer to Hurston.
Mhm.
Or Hurston will be
And
closer to
I-
Microtech and so on, and you can plan your trade runs or your missions or whatever you're doing based on where things are at the time instead of fixed like they are now.
And I think that's one of the things that will make the economy more interesting too.
Yep.
Is that not only do those times come down, but that also should impact the economy, right?
Absolutely.
Because more people will be trading, so those prices come down, and then you have to reevaluate. So it's not going to be just like, well, this is it. This is the run that you have to do to level up. You're
Yeah.
going to have to make decisions.
It'll be much more
And,
complicated than what we have now.
Right.
And what's cool too, just this is completely off topic, is when you think about it, like we're thinking about it at such a small scale where because we're just talking about like the distance between two planets and how that'll affect the
Mhm.
economy between them. And then that affects the economy between the systems between each other. And then that affects the overall universe economy. It's like pretty wild when you think about it.
Yeah, it's pretty it gets pretty involved pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, man. So anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, I think that's.
I did read your
I mean,
post
I
on
guess I
that.
kind of went into. I guess I did go into some other things on the post, like kind of
Yeah.
what I see anyway. The difference between small ships and large ships is that your small ships, at least from a cargo standpoint, are more like your delivery vans.
Yeah.
That at least I think they should be going from like a distribution hub like Port Olisar to down to your fixed locations, like your outposts.
Yeah.
And so they're the ones making the atmospheric flight. They're the ones doing kind of these short runs. And then your larger ships are the ones that are going from station to station, that are orbiting these places. So
Yeah, when you get into the whole
and I think that-
series, you're obviously not going down to the outposts.
Yeah. I mean, that's a hard line, but then there's some ships that are like, well, you can do it, but it's more difficult, if you're taking a Caterpillar down to the surface versus a Freelancer or something like that.
Yeah, and we'll see
Um,
what the flight model brings with like I'm really looking at the
Mhm.
Caterpillar in particular with that, is because that's the ship that I enjoy running cargo in the most, and I wonder how it will affect my cargo runs and my travel times and all that stuff. But all that stuff kind of remains up in the air, so I just kind of avoid the subject as far as like guessing or yeah, just guessing what it'll be like because it's so close that we'll just kind of wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of development, particularly just with the flight model, coming out,
Yeah.
and even everything after that. There's going to be a lot of changes.
Yeah, man.
So a lot of it is kind of sit and wait, but also participating in the discussion and giving them feedback, and
Absolutely.
so I think this is a good time to discuss this at least.
Yeah. Well, all right, Emessar. I'm going to let you go. Thank you for being on Answer the Call, and a lot of good points, specifically about like orbits. And I definitely read your post on the last video as well. So good
All right.
job,
Well,
man.
thanks
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
me.
As always. We'll see you next time, bud. All right, so our next caller is Ponut64. Ponut64? You are on Answer the Call. Welcome, man. How are you?
Hello, Mr. Twerk.
Hello, Mr. Ponut.
I'm okay. So, travel times.
Travel time.
Let me sidestep that first with saying, don't let me go over 7 minutes or else it's going to be a stupid rant.
No problem. It's 10:49 right now. Go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm fine with them making the space they have now take a long time to travel, because I'm thinking of this more about the density of content, which has a lot to do with travel times, because if you can do a lot in a small area, traveling faster between longer distances is not as necessary. It's still a part of the system. And I'm thinking, we're not going to have another system for another 3 years. We might as well drag out Stanton as long as we can, so it's easier for them to develop a bigger game in Stanton. Okay?
I think that's a relevant point, because I don't know when we're getting our next star system. I don't know if it'll be 3 years, but we don't know when we're going to get it.
Yeah, it could be tomorrow. I don't know. But I'm okay with them dragging out the travel times in Stanton for now, because I want them to spend more time developing the density of content nicely. Just nice. The nice number. 69.
And I think CIG is on the same page with you.
Yeah.
Right? With they're definitely going that route, and are less concerned about other star systems and much more concerned about filling this with content. And there is quite a bit of content in it already, and it still feels empty.
Yeah. And
that was a
game
sneaky
mechanics.
69 as well. I did hear that.
Yeah, it's nice. It's the nice number.
Yes.
Anyway. It's also filling it with game mechanics, and that is what plays into the flight mechanics, and also Hurston being bad. I feel like deviating from Port Olisar was kind of a mistake.
Okay.
Port Olisar is so smoothly laid out. It's actually really much bigger than the travelable area, so they can explain away having these all other things that happen here, but you have a small little office where it happens. And it's a nice way to get a dense area where you can do stuff, and if they wanted to, they could shove another entrance somewhere else and have NPCs that you talk to for missions. It's nice and dense. And I recently played the game and checked out the rest stops. Those are also nice and dense and wonderful.
Yep.
And even those are nice and dense and wonderful, and they're big enough where the elevators actually teleport you. So there's a lot of space there. And even in Hurston, by the way, the elevators teleport you. So I'm still a little confused as to why they made the Hurston so huge, the landing area. Why these trains have to move around when the elevators teleport you. I know that's stupid. It's all about immersion and realism, but that's going back to primarily why do that? You could,
because of what you said, it's immersion.
For Olisar.
Because it's really nice to sit on a train and see the city go by. Because it allows you to travel through the city in a way that we want to. Because we want to be free and allowed to travel wherever we want, but not be able. But CIG is kind of locking us down and saying, well, you can go from here to there, and it happens faster. It's just, I mean, that's one of the positive things, I think, for the travel time, is a thing like a train.
Yeah, that's cool and all, but why deviate from the design of Port Olisar? When if you want to take that route, you can. It's there. The place is big. They could put it there. You can go do it. But if you're the dense guy who just wants to come in for the gameplay, you have your terminal. And you've pointed this out a million times. I'm just rehashing it in my own way. But that's Port Olisar. You got everything you need in a very small area, and it's cool. It's
right nice. When you get there.
Yeah. And it's seamless. There's no teleportation to Port Olisar, which is more impressive to me, but whatever.
Also a much smaller place, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like, the airlock system rather than the elevator system, of course.
Yeah.
But if it speeds up the process to get, because again, these are small rest stops. We're going to have larger ones. Elevators are going to be needed, all that stuff. That the teleportation thing as a whole, I think we're off topic with that one.
Yeah, they'll work that out. I'm just saying they have teleporting elevators.
Yeah. But what about like on Hurston and leaving atmosphere and maybe the thoughts that I had there? You have anything?
When it comes to leaving atmosphere and atmospheric flight model, that's a whole nother thing. But for leaving atmosphere, I really like the idea of just being able to quantum travel straight from the surface. That might strike many people as absurd. But if I have a destination, I really don't want like a second place to have to go to get to the destination. That's basically what leaving the atmosphere is. And obviously, if the place you want to go is on the other side of the planet, of course you're going to have to leave atmosphere and go to the other points. But since quantum travel is going to take so long to begin with, maybe just let us do it when we want. But then there's a lot to answer with that, and I'm going to let everyone else walk away with that because I'll have fun flying if I have to, but we'll see.
I don't necessarily agree with your point. I try to meet in the middle a little bit with mine, but like I get what you're saying. When I want to go somewhere, I would like to get there in a reasonable amount of time. And the amount of time to me right now is not reasonable, and it sounds like you share the same opinion.
Yeah, especially when multi-crew comes on, because I'm going to mention PlanetSide again, because the original PlanetSide, when you're capturing a base, PvP only, when you're capturing a base, there's a 15-minute hack timer. That hack timer meant there was a lot of team killing that went on, because no one had anything to do. And I don't want to have random crew members get the inclination to team kill each other, because I know they'll do that.
Not just that, just get bored. If you get bored, it's not good. It's a video game. You're supposed to be engaged in it all the time. Even when traveling, this was something I wanted to mention in my monologue, but again, it went way too long, and I'll try and keep those short in the future, and maybe just go down bullet points and then let you guys share your opinions in the future, is just in general, quantum travel is hands-off completely. Like if you play a game like Elite Dangerous, they have a similar system to quantum travel, but you're actually flying the ship the entire time, and you're moving your throttle down to adjust the speed to slow down at the proper time, right? It's way more tactile. And like Elite in general is way less tactile than StarCitizen, but I think they did a way better job with quantum travel than StarCitizen did because,
Yeah, I think I'm done. You're doing great, Mr. Twerk.
Thank you, dude. So you're done? You want me to kick you out of here?
Yeah, get me out. I've been over 7 minutes.
All right, man. Get out of here. I'll talk to you later. Great call, Ponat. We'll see you on the next one, all right? Bye now.
Yeah.
All right, and our next caller is Mr. First Emperor. Go and change the title. There we go. And First Emperor, you are on Answer the Call. Welcome, bud.
Hello, happy to be here.
Hello. How are you?
I'm pretty good, and I'm on the side of I'm pretty okay with travel times in general, even if there are some things that need to change about those.
Perfect. Tell me.
Okay. First thing is that I'm pretty happy that it takes a long time to get to Hurston, because it should be a meaningful decision to get to a totally different area. And not just I'm going to jump back and forth all the time without any thought process behind it.
Okay,
so that part is in my eyes, pretty good. Well,
fine, but would you share my sentiment that, like, let's say it takes 10 minutes to get to Hurston, which is kind of what it is now. Is it better if it was 5 minutes because it's still a meaningful decision, but it's not excessive?
Yes and no, and that's why I don't actually want to talk about the balance and changing some values, because this is something you can pretty much do with the experience that players can collect. So more about the design and the logic behind it. So a big issue for me personally is, like, for IDD, that small ships take way longer than big ships.
Yeah.
Because it cancels out so much potential gameplay mechanics. Like what truck with 1,000 horsepower and 10 tons of cargo is faster than a Prius? It just makes no sense to me in any way possible. And if you have a scout ship, a small fast ship to just jump somewhere, see if there are any enemies, you would now actually have to send a caterpillar just to check out if you can go there. And a small scout ship takes a lot longer. So I feel like quantum drives are the only thing that are important for the jumps right now, but not mass and size, and that's something that can't be.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I think the quantum travel times will be resolved with better components that have positives and negatives. And no matter what, it's hard for me to agree with, like, your scout point, because no one's going to scout with a caterpillar, because once you've made it into a system, you're not going to make it out because you can't maneuver fast enough, and so on. Your signature is probably much higher. There's all these other factors that come into place where using a scout ship to scout will make sense. The quantum travel times is weird that a smaller ship doesn't move as fast as a bigger ship, but it also does make sense to me that a bigger quantum drive should move faster than a smaller quantum drive. I just
that's true, but the ship size and the weight of the ship needs to factor in that, not just the quantum drive. That's what I think. That's kind of my point. Like, I think Luke said it's not like this, but I feel like the mass is just not factored in, and with the new flight model, then this will change as well.
Maybe, I think in the flight model you feel it, but in quantum travel, you're in a bubble. That mass and weight and none of that matters.
Yeah, probably, but I just don't like it how it is.
That's fine. I don't like it. I don't like it how it is either. But I don't think the solution necessarily is smaller ships should be faster, because that's how it works on Earth, right? Because that doesn't necessarily correlate together. There probably is a better solution somewhere, but I don't know if, we're on it with that, is all I'm saying. I don't disagree with you. It's obviously a broken system.
Yeah.
Because how the hell is a fighter supposed to catch up with a like a caterpillar? Like
exactly.
A bounty hunter that's trying, exactly. They're trying to catch up with a caterpillar, let's say. Well, a caterpillar can quantum travel so much faster, and once you've quantum traveled to one system, then you can quantum travel to another, and then that has extended the distance between the two pilots further and further and further. So it's just something I don't quite understand, and it obviously has to be solved at some point.
Yeah, and again, we're a bit at the meaningful decision thing, because if you should have the option between taking a bigger and a smaller ship, and you should have an advantage, like with the jump points. Let's go, if you do a cargo run that's a more dangerous road and you opt for the smaller ship, like the Kessel run, for example, you can't do this with a huge freighter because it's not as agile as a small one.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have anything like this right now.
Yeah.
Then about the walking part, getting to a quest giver or something.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the first, or maybe one or two times where you have to actually travel on foot to get there, just to check out the new locations and stuff. I'm all for this, but you should also don't have to go this long walk every single time, because it gets very tedious.
Yes.
and if you have, they want to do this, it is important to make it meaningful again. Like the second recognition took me all the way down to a place I would never have found. I don't know if that was their intention or if it was just random, but I ended up at the next quest killer, and that just piqued my interest. Like, well, okay, that guy looks interesting. I want to check it out.
Yeah.
And if they do it like this, like a guide, or not really tutorial, but just a guide to show you new stuff, it's all good. But at the one point you've seen all the places, it's just not necessary anymore, and they have to tech to do it a different way.
Yeah, that's it.
I feel like they're trying way too hard to show off all their new cool locations and planet tech, which is kind of, well, it's
yeah,
a tech team, so it's kind of alright, but
and they put a lot of work into it. You know, I get it, but at the same time, it's they're trying to build a game now, and I feel like it's, you know, emphasis on making the game enjoyable. I
mean, for
now
testing
is important.
purposes, I think it's important that we run all those ways all the time, because then the bugs happen, we can report it, and they can get all the data. So I guess for now it makes sense to do it like this.
Yeah.
And it might also be the reason, like, you could easily trade from your Moby class if they wanted it to, and see how the AI gets all the cargo out of a ship, but they don't have they don't have the visual representation in right now.
Yeah.
So they kind of have to make you go up so you don't see what happened to your ship, but they wouldn't have to make you walk, use 2 elevators and walk 2 miles just to trade. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Do you have anything else to add before I bring on the next caller?
No, I think I'm done.
All right, first. Well, thank you for your call. I definitely agree with a lot of that stuff. It's I think we got a lot of callers that definitely feel that aren't like 100% I love the travel times, which I'm surprised. I thought we were going to get a few of those. You're the first one that was like, I don't mind it. It should feel like a decision, you know? But and
exactly.
I can't disagree with
they
that.
They still need to balance it. I mean, balancing is a whole different thing from design. So.
Agreed. Well, all right, first. Thank you so much for calling, and we'll see you next time, man.
Okay, see you soon. Bye.
Bye now. All right, and our final caller of the day is BreakTheBox. BreakTheBox. You are on Answer the Call. Welcome, bud.
Hey, what's going on, Twerk?
How are you?
I'm doing well.
That's good. So what do you...
I'm kind of glad it worked out this way, because I have a counterpoint, I guess.
Yes. Bring it. What do you got?
So I don't think the current system's all that bad. I think it can be improved a lot, and it can be rebalanced. I think the way to do it is not necessarily to just increase acceleration and increase top speed and make everybody fly really fast everywhere. I think that increasing top speed is good, but maybe keep the acceleration curve kind of the same. So when you are traveling at a very far distance, you have more time to build up to that max speed. And it does cut a little bit of the time off there, but the shorter times are still pretty much the same because you're not reaching that sort of higher warp setting, if you will.
Okay.
So there's long travel times in space are kind of part of the tactics and strategy, I think, too. A lot of space combat kind of revolves around making sure that you have defensive ships in the right place, and when you go on the offense, that your target's still there.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of things in terms of what would make the strategy and tactics interesting.
Okay.
Because if, you can always get to like, oh, their fleet actually moved, but I can just get there in 2 seconds. It doesn't make space feel very big. That's kind of like wormhole drive where you're just from A to B instantly instead of having to actually traverse the vastness of space.
So what would your solution be then?
So my solution would be, I kind of get to that. I have a couple points that kind of build up to that. So there's 2 kinds of content in an MMO. There's that true open world feel where you're just walking around doing your own thing. and then there's theme parks. And theme parks are like those places like in WoW, where it's like, hey, there's characters standing around in their costumes, dressed up, and I can go talk to them, and it's like Disney World, you know? And I think those places are important, like to have those cities where those big characters are there, and you go and see them, and it feels kind of self-contained, and it's little, and it's really refined, and it's really polished content. And then space, though, it shouldn't feel like that. It should feel bigger in the sense that it feels like this is a truly open world setting and there's a lot of just nothing around. The theme parks, you know, if you go kind of behind the scenes, something that kind of hit WoW really hard was when they put the flying mounts in, people weren't in the theme parks anymore. They were flying over the theme parks, and it made them feel really tiny and kind of cheesy. So they eventually took out flying until you earn like an achievement to make you actually walk through all the content, which I think is an interesting point. I don't think they should force you to do that in StarCitizen, that, you know, you have to walk through all the theme parks. I think you should be able to fly over a city and get to the other end. I don't like the no-fly zones, and I don't like the no-drive zone. I mean, I can understand a little bit of like, hey, you're in bad airspace, like, I'm going to shoot you down, but not like, oh, my ship's going to blow up, you know?
Yeah, well, I kind of think that this is a temporary solution, what they have now.
Yeah.
But no-fly zones obviously make sense because they don't want people smashing ships into buildings and just being overall stupid, you know?
Yeah.
They just want to prevent the stupidity of the internet.
Yeah, and I don't think that open space, like, all together should be just, that's it, like, you're in space and it's huge and there's a lot of emptiness. I think there should be those theme park spots, like in the Squadron 42, the Coil. That's a theme park. That's something that's self-contained, that's interesting. It's a point of interest to go to.
Port Olisar, Security Post Korea, all these places.
Yeah, like jump gates, say like a better route that's not being pirated by, you know, pirates or vandal.
Yeah.
You know, there's rest stops along this route, so I'm going to go that way instead of going the way where I might run out of fuel.
Okay.
You know, those are parts of space that should have theme parks, but ultimately I think it should be bigger because you have to have that openness where, you know, it feels like you said it has consequences to your travel times.
Yeah.
You should, you know, if you move your fleet, you know, over to another spot and then they hit point A because you just moved to point B, you shouldn't be able to just, oh, I can compensate for that mistake instantly. Like, there should be some damage done before you get your fleet back over there. And I think there's a lot of balance that needs to happen around that.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Okay. Cool. I like it.
So, yeah, and the reason that I say that is, I don't know if anybody's ever read the Honor Harrington universe of books. It's a very, like, sort of physics-based combat in there. And when their ships are traveling, like, they build up to max speed, but then they also have to make turnover and slow down. Otherwise, they'll just fly right past where they're going. You know, that kind of matters too. And I think that should matter in quantum a little bit too. Like, you should have a deceleration point. I don't think it should be as long as the acceleration curve, but there should be a deceleration curve as well. And that kind of ties into the balancing of it. The other thing about the Honor Harrington verse that's really interesting is when you're in hyperspace, there's not just one speed in hyperspace. Like, hyperspace isn't just, I'm at, you know, hyperspace and I go from A to B. There's bands, and as you get up to certain points of acceleration, you kind of jump up to another bandwidth of hyperspace, if you will. And in that next bandwidth, the distance between 2 points in this hyperspace dimension is even shorter. Or for quantum travel, that means you're just traveling very fast between those points. So I think you could kind of have that sort of build-up system where, you know, your ship builds up on that curve and then it hits a point where it starts to get even faster, and then it hits another point where it gets even faster. Sort of these points where the acceleration isn't just linear, it becomes exponential, where you're like from warp 1 to warp 2 isn't a straight line. It's, you know, it increases over time, you know, in the Star Trek universe stuff too.
Okay. Interesting.
And then I also think you could gamify more than just repairs while you travel. I think you could gamify, like, tuning your engines to get the best heat and, you know, speed out of them. You could gamify having the pilot, you know, kind of compensate for, like, minor gravitational pull or gravitational fluxes in the course. You could have the navigator plotting micro jumps that allow you to like circumvent areas where you wouldn't be able to travel quite as fast because there's like, oh, there's a black hole over here, and so we want to go around that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're slowed down as we pass by it.
As long as you're
Things like
gamifying the actual travel, that's something I'm okay with. It's the people that make the excuses of, well, you can go and do things while you're in quantum travel. Like getting out of your seat and going around your ship and repairing it in the middle of quantum travel, first off, makes absolutely no sense to me. Second, it is just a bullshit excuse of, well, you'll be able to do things while you're in quantum travel, except for the thing that I wanted to do in the first place, which was play the fucking game, you know? So if the actual game of flying in quantum travel is like some of the things that you say, like with navigation and stuff like that, then fine. That is gamifying travel. That's not adding extra shit to give you something to do because travel is boring, right? So I like what you're like where your head's at there.
Yeah, you want to make it, feel like part of the game, not just like, oh, intermission, I'm going to run to the bathroom.
Exactly. At
there
no
should
point
be some penalty for just leaving your ship on autopilot.
Yeah, and this will sound weird, but at no point should a video game, especially an MMO, that there is no pause screen. At no point should you feel comfortable getting up out of your seat to go to the bathroom. Like, will you have to do it? I mean, I guess there are points where you can, like you're at a rest stop or wherever, like a safe place. But while you're traveling or around, you should never really like you should be engaged at that point while you're traveling is the point that I'm trying to make. I guess I came off kind of weird there at the beginning. Obviously, if you have to use the bathroom, guys, go use the bathroom. But when you're in travel, you should be engaged with it. You shouldn't be immediately, okay, I'm in travel, no more engagement, watch my Netflix show, go to the bathroom, make some food, get a drink of water. Like, no. And obviously I understand, yeah, that's where co-piloting is. I also understand that, interdictions aren't quite working. There's no elements that are, popping up on your radar screen to say, ooh, maybe you want to go out of quantum travel and go check out that anomaly over there, right? I'm aware of that. But at the same time, the actual gamifying of the travel, I think, is really the solution with making the quantum travel times feel less long, and maybe that even speeds them up,
Right, and I think another way you can kind of gamify is interdiction, as you were saying.
Of course, yeah.
You want to leave the co-pilot at the con when you're like, hey, I'm going to go use the restroom real quick. You leave your character AFK, but there's still somebody watching the helm to replot a new course and run like hell if you guys get yanked out of quantum.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, all right, Break. The show is definitely coming to an end now, but I mean, what a great way to end the show. I think you made a lot of really interesting points that are not like the normal points that I hear from a lot of people, but they make a shit ton of sense. So thank you so much for that one. I thought that was a really good call, man.
Well, thanks. You have a good day.
All right, man. You too. Well, all right, guys. That was Answer the Call, and I thought it was pretty interesting. We didn't have an ASN caller. We didn't have Cayman. I would have loved to hear what they had to say about it, as well. But we had some really, really good calls, and I think the obvious solution. I think we all kind of agree that the atmosphere travel is a little bit weird and definitely needs some work. I mean, even though we've had atmospheric travel with the moons, this is our first planet, so I obviously know that things are going to iterate and grow from here, and that'll be exciting to see what's in the future. But I thought this was an important discussion to have, and I'm glad we had it. So as always, guys, if you are not watching on Twitch and you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, comment below, tell me what you think, smash that like button, that little thumbs up. Don't hit the dislike button, don't do it. And if you want to watch this show live, you can come to Twerk17 on Twitch, twitch.tv/Twerk17, and join the show together on our Discord. And if you have any topic suggestions, and you're going to post them in the YouTube comments, it serves us way better to come to the Discord and post them in the hashtag ATC topic suggestions thread there. That's where we grab a lot of them from. So again, just thank you so much for all the guys who called, and thank you very much to everybody watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.